Ana Bermudez's story was not set up to be one of success, but her tenacity and dedication to fulfill her dreams helped her overcome many obstacles. The San Diego native is today a successful technology entrepreneur. She's also an advocate for the advancement of women of color in business. Ana, you do not come from a privileged background. How has that shaped you into who you are today?
So no, I do not come from a privileged background. My grandparents immigrated from Mexico. They did not have access to an education when they were young, but they came to this country as immigrants and brought their children with them so that their grandchildren could have a better future. So that has shaped 100% of who I am today. It's taught me to be hardworking, resilient, and to speak up when I see lack of opportunity for people in my community. My entire family, my mom, my uncles, my grandparents instilled upon me that education was important. It was important. I had to go to college and I had to earn my degree so that I could get what they called a good job and where I wouldn't have to break my back leaning over and picking from farms here in California. So it helped me understand that a good education was important and that I had to go and get that in order to make a difference in my community. The experience of being an entrepreneur is universal for anyone and everyone who wants to make a change, for anyone and everyone who wants to achieve a goal, no matter how big it may be or how big your dream may be. You have to understand that nothing worth having comes by easily. So I would say that, quitting my corporate job was the single most frightening thing I've done because I cut myself from that steady, reliable income that my family had taught me was important. But then every step of the way has been a challenge. As a woman of color in technology and especially in entrepreneurship, it is publicly noted and shared that there is a huge disparity, not just for women, but for people of color. And I happen to be both, right, in the tech industry. So there are many challenges, and I just have to remind myself to be resilient and to take any and every opportunity like this one with Latin Glam that comes my way to speak up and share my voice.
I also know that when you started your company, it was not easy to find investors. How was the process for you?
Yes, finding investors is a challenge for any and every entrepreneur. It's a part of the experience, it's a part of the game, but it has been relentless, being relentless in my pursuit of networking and not giving up in my objective of finding an angel investor. But to give you an idea, I quit my corporate job in 2012, thinking, wow.
What were you doing before? What was your corporate job?
Yes, I was working in wealth management and I started my career at Merrill Lynch. So I was tasked with working with wealthy families and individuals and managing their assets. And it was at that time that I realized, that the way wealthy individuals in my community were living was very, very different from the way members of my community and my family were living. So I knew at that point in time, from learning from their stories and recognizing that they took a lot of risk, that if I wanted to make an impact in my family, if I wanted to create generational wealth for my family and my community, that I was going to have to break away from corporate and become an entrepreneur. And in order to succeed as an entrepreneur, I needed investors. But even though I quit in 2012, I didn't get my first investor until November of 2015. So nearly 3 years later before that first paycheck hit the corporate account from an investor.
And how did you do to survive during those 2 years where you were not getting any money?
Yes, I learned how to be resourceful, right? Like you mentioned before, I come from very humble beginnings. So luckily, I was born into an environment that taught me how to survive and do a lot with very little. To not go into too much detail, I liquidated my savings, I liquidated my retirement, I spent all all of the cash that I had access to through myself and my earnings in corporate. And I knew that if I was going to take that leap of faith and start my own company, that I had to be 100% committed and find a way to make it, whether I had the funding or not.
Wow. And now to all of those young ladies who want to become an entrepreneur like you, like yourself, what tips will you give them to start their business and to find investors, which I think is the most important thing when you are starting a business?
Yes. What I like to share is something that isn't very often shared through these discussions and through these events. Being afraid and being insecure and doubting, and I'll speak for myself, doubting my abilities, doubting my value, my insecurities certainly take over at times when you face rejection time and time again. But the comfort that I find in my experience is that it is universal for every entrepreneur. It doesn't matter how you self-identify. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin or where you came from. Entrepreneurship is challenging and difficult. But the advice that I like to give to other women and people of color is embrace the discomfort, understand that it is a difficult journey, but everything that is worth having is worth fighting for, and that is what entrepreneurship presents you with. A platform and a way to speak up, not just for yourself and your family, but for your community as a whole, and say, hey, I'm here, regardless of what I look like or your opinions, I'm here and I'm competing and I'm going to do everything in my power to see this through.
Ana, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, and we really hope to have you soon again here in Latin Glam.
Jessica, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to Latin Glam for shining a light on such an important topic and for including me in the conversation. Thank you.